Aliens horrified by humans consuming their planet's apex predator. Best HFY stories. It was a quiet day in the distant galaxy, on a planet where the most terrifying creatures roamed the surface. The species there, known as the Kalari, had long been the apex predators of their world, sitting at the top of the food chain with their massive frames, razor-sharp claws, and deadly instincts. Nothing dared challenge them until the humans arrived. At first, the Kalari were fascinated by these strange newcomers. They appeared fragile by their standards, small in size and lacking the terrifying features that made the Kalari so dominant. The humans didn't seem capable of surviving the harsh conditions of their planet, yet they somehow did. It was perplexing to the Kalari, who watched with curiosity and mild amusement as humans set up colonies, trading, and growing their population. But things took an unexpected turn when a group of Kalari watched something that left them utterly stunned. A group of humans had ventured into the wild, a place where the Kalari roamed freely, their territory unchallenged. The humans were hunting, but not for the usual prey. They were after something far more dangerous, something that had never been hunted before, a full-grown Kalari. The Kalari, hidden in the dense forests, observed as these small, seemingly insignificant creatures calmly tracked and cornered one of their own kind. A large, hulking Kalari, accustomed to being the one doing the hunting, now found itself at the mercy of these peculiar humans. It was baffling. The humans were armed with strange tools and weapons, yet the Kalari was no match for their ingenuity. What happened next sent a wave of terror through the watching Kalari. The humans didn't just subdue their prey, they began to consume it. The Kalari had always been the predators, the ones who feasted upon the strongest, the ones who dominated their ecosystem. But these strange humans, these fragile creatures with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons, were now eating what had once been their superior. The sight was unimaginable, horrifying. The humans cut into the flesh of the great Kalari, roasting it over a fire, and feasting on it with a strange kind of reverence. The Kalari had no words for what they saw. They had never encountered a species so bold, so fearless, and so utterly unshaken by the idea of facing their greatest predator head-on. It wasn't just a matter of survival. It was as if the humans had turned the natural order upside down. The Kalari had always believed that they were at the pinnacle of evolution, that no creature could ever threaten them. But here were these humans, not only surviving but thriving in ways that the Kalari had never imagined possible. These creatures didn't just hunt, they conquered. And what was even more unsettling was that the humans did it with a kind of joy. They ate their former predator with no sign of fear, and there was something strangely respectful in the way they treated it, as if they had earned the right to do so. Word of the humans' terrifying behavior spread like wildfire across the planet. The Kalari began to panic. They tried to rally their forces, to form a strategy, but deep down, they knew this was something they had never faced before. The humans weren't just taking over, they were rewriting the rules of existence. They were eating their apex predators, demonstrating an unyielding strength that made the Kalari shudder. It was clear now, the humans weren't just visitors to this world, they were here to stay, and they would stop at nothing to rise to the top. As the humans' colonies expanded, the Kalari found themselves retreating. They watched helplessly as the humans, with their resilience and ingenuity, continued to dominate, altering the landscape of their planet in ways the Kalari could never have anticipated. It was a humbling realization for the Kalari. They had been the apex predators for millennia, but now, on their own planet, they were the hunted. The humans, with their unshakable determination, had come, and they had proven that the rules of the universe were not as fixed as the Kalari had believed. In the end, the humans didn't just survive, they thrived by doing the one thing the Kalari had never imagined, consuming their world's greatest predator. And with that, the Kalari realized a harsh truth: they were no longer the apex species. The humans had taken their place. Next, the Kalari's last stand. As the days passed, the Kalari were forced to come to terms with their new reality. Once an unchallenged, terrifying species, they were now being outsmarted and outclassed at every turn by the very humans they had underestimated. It wasn't just their physical prowess that had the Kalari trembling, but something deeper. The humans were proving to be masters of strategy, innovation, and relentless determination. Each day, the humans expanded their foothold, pushing deeper into Kalari territory. and the apex predators found themselves being pushed back, their once proud kingdom shrinking under the weight of humanity's conquest. But the Kalari weren't known for backing down. Their pride, honed by centuries of dominance, refused to allow them to simply fade into obscurity. As the humans continued their strange, audacious behaviors, eating their dead, taking their lands, and even adapting to the harsh environment, the Kalari convened in secret, readying themselves for one last desperate attempt to reclaim their world. The Kalari elders, wise and ancient, gathered in the heart of their hidden citadel. They knew the humans were not like anything they had encountered before. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a battle for their very existence. They had to act quickly, and they had to act decisively. "We cannot allow this to continue," the eldest among them, Vorik, spoke with a voice that echoed through the cold stone chamber. "These humans are like no other species we have faced. They will consume everything, our land, our legacy, our pride. We must fight with everything we have." Vorik's words stirred the assembly. The Kalari had always been warriors at heart, but the humans' ability to think beyond brute strength was something that even they could not ignore. It was time for a new strategy. "We will strike at their core," Vorik continued. "We will invade their settlements, destroy their technology, and show them that they have awakened a force they cannot defeat." The Kalari prepared for war, massing their forces, sharpening their weapons, and donning their battle armor. For the first time in their history, they would fight not just for food or territory but for survival. This would be the ultimate test of their strength. Meanwhile, the humans were aware of the brewing storm. They had learned much about the Kalari, adapting to their environment, building stronger defenses, and fortifying their colonies. But they knew the Kalari would not take their defeat lying down. A confrontation was inevitable. Lieutenant Mara Quinn, one of the human commanders, stood on the command deck of a newly constructed fortress, her eyes scanning the digital maps of the Kalari-controlled zones. She turned to her team, her expression grim but determined. "They're coming," she said, her voice low. "We've been pushing them back, but we can't underestimate them. They'll attack with everything they have." Mara's team, comprised of some of the best human soldiers, engineers, and strategists, nodded in agreement. They had faced fierce resistance before, but nothing like this. The Kalari were a species shaped by war, their bodies designed for combat. But Mara knew that the key to their survival was not just in brute force, it was in their ability to think, to adapt, and to never give up. "We fight like we always have," Mara said, rallying her team. "We use what we know, what they don't understand. We win by being smarter, faster, and more relentless." The humans had something the Kalari had never seen in action before, a fighting spirit that couldn't be crushed, a unity that transcended individual strength. And it was this spirit that would lead them into the battle for the future of the planet. The day of the Kalari's last stand arrived, and the skies above their homeworld darkened with the sounds of war. The Kalari launched their assault, their massive warships tearing through the sky, their battle cries echoing across the land. They had one goal: wipe out the humans before they could take complete control of their world. But the humans were ready. The Kalari attacked in waves, sending their fiercest warriors to breach human defenses. But with every strike, they encountered something new, something they hadn't anticipated. The humans had developed advanced technologies, using everything from high-tech weapons to environmental traps designed to neutralize Kalari strengths. Each Kalari warrior that charged into the fray was met with a combination of firepower, traps, and tactical precision. At the heart of the battlefield, Lieutenant Mara Quinn stood with her team, coordinating the defense. The Kalari's overwhelming force was formidable, but the humans had learned from their mistakes. Every attack the Kalari launched was countered with strategy. Every attempt to overwhelm the humans was met with resilience. The battle was intense, and though the Kalari were fierce, they began to realize something they had never faced before: humans did not break. The tide of battle turned slowly, and the Kalari began to falter. Their attacks grew less coordinated, their lines less organized. As the realization sank in, they were not the only ones who had adapted. The humans had become more than just survivors, they had become conquerors. In the final moments of the battle, Vorik himself, the elder of the Kalari, made a desperate charge against the humans. His massive form crashed through their lines, but before he could strike, Mara Quinn confronted him, her rifle trained on the massive predator. You've lost, she said, her voice steady. The fight is over. Vorik hesitated, his fierce eyes narrowing. For the first time, the mighty Kalari elder recognized the truth in her words. The Kalari had underestimated the humans, and now it was too late to change that. With a final, defiant roar, Vorik fell, the last of his kind to face the humans, and with that, the Kalari's reign as apex predators was over. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived, and in doing so, they had rewritten the laws of nature itself. And the Kalari learned the hard way that the true power of humanity was not in their strength, but in their unyielding will to adapt and conquer, no matter the odds. Epilogue: A New Dawn. In the aftermath of the conflict, the humans began to rebuild. They did not wipe out the Kalari completely, but they established a new order. The planet was no longer ruled by a single species, but by a new coalition of humans and Kalari, working together to preserve the balance of nature and rebuild what had been destroyed. The Kalari, now humbled, had been forced to accept their new role. They were no longer the apex predators, but they had learned something valuable. True power lay not in being the strongest, but in being able to adapt, survive, and build a future. And as the humans and Kalari worked side by side, the once dominant predators now saw a future where collaboration, not conquest, would lead them forward into the stars. Next, the Kalari's rise from the ashes. Years had passed since the humans and Kalari formed their uneasy alliance. The battle for dominance had ended in a fragile peace, but tensions still simmered beneath the surface. While the humans had emerged as the victors, they had not forgotten the brutality of the Kalari. The Kalari, in turn, could not erase the sting of their fall from the apex of the food chain. Their pride still gnawed at them. However, over time, something unexpected began to happen. The Kalari, once predators of unparalleled power, began to adapt in ways that shocked even the humans. On the bustling human colony of HFY, a new generation of Kalari had been born. These younger Kalari, raised alongside humans, were different. They were learning, they were evolving, and as their minds expanded beyond the physical battle prowess of their ancestors, the once brutal race began to explore new ideas, cooperation, technology, and even empathy. The younger Kalari saw the potential of human ingenuity, and they took it to heart. Their bodies, once designed purely for hunting, began to modify in ways that were more suited for labor, for construction, and even for scientific endeavors. They started to work hand in hand with the humans, building cities, creating new technologies, and even offering unique insights that only their formidable biology could provide. In one of the human-controlled research labs, a team of Kalari engineers and human scientists worked together on an ambitious project, a new form of energy that could power entire star systems using the natural resources of their planet. Resources once reserved for the most dangerous and feared creatures. The Kalari's strength and resilience made them perfect for operating the massive equipment required to harness such power, while the humans' sharp intellect and scientific knowledge guided the direction of the project. "Look at this," Mara Quinn said, her voice tinged with awe as she looked at a holographic projection of the new energy model. This could change everything." The Kalari engineer beside her, a young warrior named Zoran, nodded. His features, though still intimidating by human standards, held a new expression, one of pride, not from destruction, but from creation. He looked at Mara with the same respect she had once shown him in the heat of battle. "This, we never thought we could build, we only knew how to destroy," Zoran said, his voice rough but filled with a sense of wonder. "But now, I see, we can build a new future, together." It wasn't just technology that was changing. A cultural shift was happening within the Kalari themselves. The younger generation, no longer bound by the violent traditions of their ancestors, began to see humans not as enemies to be hunted or feared, but as equals and partners. However, not all Kalari were so willing to embrace change. There remained factions within their society, older warriors and traditionalists, who still clung to the old ways, the old pride. These Kalari viewed the human-Kalari alliance as an abomination, a betrayal of everything they stood for. To them, the younger Kalari were weak, subjugated by the very creatures they had once ruled over. A movement began to form in the shadows, a resistance that would stop at nothing to restore the Kalari to their rightful place at the top of the food chain. They called themselves the Reclaimers, and their goal was simple: to overthrow the humans and restore Kalari dominance. The Reclaimers were not interested in peaceful coexistence. They believed the Kalari's fall had been a tragic mistake and that humanity's very existence threatened the future of their species. They viewed the younger generation's willingness to cooperate with humans as a form of cowardice, and they would do whatever it took to break the alliance between the two species. The tension between the two factions came to a head when the Reclaimers launched a series of sabotage missions against the human Kalari joint projects. They attacked the energy research lab where Mara and Zoran worked, planting explosive devices in the heart of the facility. Their goal was clear: destroy the most promising human Kalari. Collaboration yet and send a message to both sides: the old ways could not be forgotten. Mara and Zoran barely escaped with their lives when the lab erupted in a violent explosion. The destruction was massive, but it wasn't just the physical damage that stunned them, it was the realization that the fragile piece they had built was on the verge of collapse. This was no accident, Mara said, her voice steely with determination. The Reclaimers are trying to destroy everything we've worked for. They want to take us back to war. Zoran's expression darkened. I will not let them undo our future. We cannot let them win. But as the Kalari prepared for a counterattack, the humans, too, had been alerted to the growing unrest. The human leaders, now firmly intertwined with Kalari leadership, met to discuss their options. They knew that a war would be catastrophic, not only for their two species but for the entire planet. The Kalari and humans had too much invested together. The planet's future depended on their unity. Mara knew that diplomacy would be key, but time was running out. She contacted Zoran, her voice filled with urgency. Zoran, we need to act fast. If the Reclaimers go unchecked, we'll lose everything we've built. We have to find a way to reach the heart of their movement, to show them the benefits of cooperation. Zoran paused for a moment before answering. I'll talk to my people, but it won't be easy. Some of them will never listen. Mara nodded. We don't need all of them, just enough to stand with us. We can't afford another war. The final confrontation came when the Reclaimers launched a full-scale attack on the heart of the human Kalari coalition, the capital city. Their forces clashed with human and Kalari defenders in a brutal battle for control. But amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. As the battle raged on, members of the younger Kalari generation, including Zoran, began to take a stand against their own people. They moved through the battlefield, speaking to their comrades, trying to convince them that this war would not lead to victory, it would only lead to mutual destruction. It wasn't an easy task, but the tide began to shift. One by one, the younger Kalari soldiers dropped their weapons, laying them down in favor of dialogue. And slowly, but surely, the Reclaimers found themselves outnumbered and outmaneuvered. In the end, the battle was won, not by force, but by the unity of those who believed in a new way forward. Epilogue: A united future. The war was over, and the Kalari and humans had once again emerged victorious, not through domination, but through cooperation. The Reclaimers were defeated, their movement scattered and disbanded, and the peace that had been so fragile was solidified. As the dust settled, Zoran stood alongside Mara, looking out over the rebuilt capital city. It was a symbol of what they had achieved together, a beacon of hope for the future. The Kalari were no longer just survivors, they were collaborators, partners in building something greater than their past. For the first time in centuries, the Kalari were free from the burden of being the apex predators, and the humans, too, had found a place in this new world. Together, they would continue to push forward, stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. And with that, a new era began, not of war and conquest, but of mutual respect and shared destiny. The Kalari's true rise had begun, not to reclaim their past, but to forge a new future alongside humanity. Next, the Kalari and humans beyond the stars. The peace between the Kalari and humans had lasted for decades, and the alliance had reshaped their world. The once fractured relationship between the two species was now a model for cooperation, with both contributing unique strengths to a shared future. The Kalari had proven their adaptability, becoming experts in construction, engineering, and bioengineering, while humans shared their technological advancements, science, and leadership skills. Together, they built cities, advanced medicine, and pushed the boundaries of space exploration. Yet, as they reached for the stars, there were new challenges on the horizon, ones that would test not only their alliance but their very survival. The United Human Kalari Confederation had launched its first interstellar colony ships, embarking on a mission to explore new star systems and establish new settlements across the galaxy. The journey would be long, with many dangers, but it represented the next great leap for both species. The first of these ships, the Resolute, was a marvel of human Kalari engineering, a massive vessel capable of carrying tens of thousands of people and advanced equipment to distant stars. Mara Quinn, now a respected leader and ambassador between the two species, stood at the helm of the Resolute. She looked out at the view from the command deck, watching as the stars blurred into streaks of light, a reminder of the endless possibilities ahead. Beside her, Zorin, who had risen to become one of the highest-ranking Kalari officers in the Confederation, stood silently, his gaze also fixed on the distant stars. "We've come a long way," Mara said, her voice filled with both pride and apprehension. Zorin's deep voice rumbled. "It was not just us, Mara. It was the humans and Kalari together. This is the result of our unity." Mara nodded, feeling a sense of awe at how far they had come. But she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was about to change. She had known for a long time that the universe was vast, and the peaceful coexistence they had fought so hard to build on their homeworld might be tested beyond the stars. "We're heading into unknown territory," Mara continued. "There's no telling what we'll encounter out there." "We face the unknown, as we always have," Zorin replied, "but we face it together." Months into the journey, the Resolute entered a previously unexplored region of space, a vast expanse dotted with strange, uncharted planets. The crew was excited, but unease was palpable. The deeper they ventured, the more the crew noticed odd, unexplained anomalies, fluctuating radiation fields, strange energy signals, and, most troubling of all, silent, seemingly deserted planets that should have teemed with life. One of the strange phenomena came in the form of an ancient derelict ship drifting near a dead star system. It was massive, its structure far older than anything the humans or Kalari had ever encountered. The Resolute's sensors detected signs of long-dead life forms, and the captain, a seasoned human explorer named Captain Elena Wright, ordered an expedition team to investigate the mysterious vessel. Mara and Zorin, both of whom had seen their fair share of danger, were among the volunteers for the mission. The two of them, alongside a handful of crew members, boarded a smaller shuttle and made their way toward the derelict ship. As they approached, the sense of unease only grew. The ship's hull was riddled with damage, its once pristine surface pocked with burns and scars from some long-forgotten conflict. Upon boarding the ship, they found it eerily silent. The corridors were empty, and the air was cold and stale. Yet, there was a strange sense of life still lingering within the walls, as if the ship had once been a vibrant, thriving place. As the team moved deeper into the ship, they discovered something truly terrifying: alien technology beyond anything they had seen, and evidence of an entire civilization wiped out by a force neither human nor Kalari could understand. At the heart of the ship, they found the remains of the original crew, alien beings that appeared both humanoid and insectoid. Their bodies were preserved, but their faces wore expressions of terror, frozen in death. It was clear that they had not died of natural causes, but rather something far more sinister. Their ship had been crippled, and there were signs of violent struggle. Mara and Zorin stood together as they scanned the central chamber, where an alien device pulsed with an unnatural energy. "This ship, it was destroyed," Zorin murmured, his voice a low growl of confusion. "But it wasn't just a natural disaster. Someone, or something, destroyed them." "But why?" Mara's expression hardened. "We don't know. But we need to get back to the Resolute and report this immediately. This is bigger than us." Back aboard the Resolute, Mara and Zorin worked with the crew to decipher the alien technology they had discovered. The data revealed an unsettling truth: the alien race had been wiped out by a vast, ancient force, one that had consumed entire civilizations across the galaxy, leaving nothing in its wake. The device was a remnant of this force, a weapon designed to destroy not just the body, but the soul itself. It had been unleashed across entire star systems, and the species that had built the weapon had been wiped from existence before they could even fully comprehend what they had created. As the crew analyzed the weapon's design, the truth hit home: this force, This weapon was still active, and it was now heading toward the Resolute. The Resolute's sensors began to pick up strange energy signatures, and soon, a vast, shadowy mass appeared on the edge of their sensors, a massive fleet, far larger than anything the humans or Kalari had ever encountered. It was the remnants of the ancient force, the destroyers of civilizations. The weapon, long thought dormant, had found new life in the form of this unstoppable fleet. Mara, Zoran, and the crew quickly realized they were not just explorers. They were now the last hope of two species. The future of the Kalari and humans depended on their ability to work together to survive this new enemy. They had no choice but to engage in a battle like no other, against a force that was beyond their understanding, beyond their technology. The Kalari's might and the humans' ingenuity would be put to the ultimate test. But as the fleet advanced toward them, there was no time left for diplomacy, no time for peace. Only one thing mattered now: survival. Epilogue: the final stand. The Resolute and its allies, the united force of Kalari and human warriors, prepared for the inevitable clash. But as the battle loomed, one thing became clear: this enemy was unlike any they had ever faced. The ancient force had the power to erase entire species from existence, and nothing in their arsenal had prepared them for this. But in the darkness of space, with the stars as their only witness, the combined might of humanity and Kalari was more than just a fighting force. It was a symbol of unity, of survival against all odds. Together, they would stand against the ancient destroyers and forge a new path for the future. Or they would be wiped from existence, their story lost to the stars. As the first wave of the enemy fleet closed in, Mara and Zoran shared a moment of quiet resolve. They had been through so much together. Now, together, they would face the ultimate test. For the first time, it wasn't just the Kalari and humans fighting for themselves. They were fighting for each other, and for the future of every species in the galaxy. Next, the rise of the Galactic Alliance. The battle that ensued in the depths of space was unlike anything Mara, Zoran, or the crew of the Resolute had ever experienced. The enemy fleet, an ancient force of destruction, was vast, far beyond anything the humans and Kalari had encountered. Its weapons were unlike any technology the crew had seen before, energy weapons that could tear ships apart in a single strike. And more devastatingly, a strange force that seemed to affect the minds of those who fought against it. Entire battalions of Kalari and human soldiers were rendered helpless, paralyzed by an invisible force. But despite the overwhelming odds, Mara, Zoran, and the crew refused to give up. They fought with everything they had, using every strategy and tactic they could think of to keep the enemy at bay. But as the battle wore on, it became clear, the only way to win would be to unite the galaxy. The Kalari and humans could not do this alone. In a desperate gambit, Mara called upon all the allies they had made during their time in the galaxy, other species, factions, and civilizations that had joined the Confederation over the years. There were species from distant star systems, races that had once been enemies of the Kalari and humans, but who now saw the importance of standing together. Now is the time, Mara said, her voice resolute as she addressed the Council of Representatives from the other species. We've been preparing for this moment without even knowing it. We are not just two species, Kalari and humans. We are part of something much greater. We must unite every civilization in the galaxy if we are to stand against this threat. The council chambers were silent for a moment, but the representatives knew Mara was right. The stakes were too high, and the ancient destroyers had proven that they were not just a threat to humans and Kalari, but to every living being in the galaxy. The Galactic Alliance was born out of necessity. Leaders from dozens of species, ranging from the technologically advanced Veltrari to the aquatic, amphibious Setlori, came together in a united front. This diverse coalition represented the best minds, the strongest fighters, and the most innovative scientists across the galaxy. Zoran, once a fierce Kalari warrior, now found himself serving as the liaison between the Kalari and their new allies. His role was not just one of diplomacy, but of ensuring the different species were not only prepared for war, but were also able to work together in unity. It was a delicate task, but Zoran had become a symbol of the new era, one where old grudges were put aside for the sake of survival. We are not alone in this fight, Zoran said to a gathering of Kalari officers as they trained alongside human soldiers. This war is not just about defeating the enemy. It is about showing the galaxy that we stand united. As one. Mara, alongside the other leaders, worked tirelessly, coordinating the massive effort to create a fleet powerful enough to take on the ancient destroyers. New weapons were developed using Kalari strength and human ingenuity. The fleet grew larger with each passing day, and a sense of hope began to spread among the people. They knew that even if they faced certain death, they would face it together. As the battle with the ancient force raged on, the Galactic Alliance finally had its chance to strike. The combined fleets of Kalari, humans, and their allies assembled near the enemy's flagship, an enormous warship that towered over the battlefield like a dark mountain. It was the heart of the destroyer's power, and if they could take it down, they might just have a chance to defeat the entire fleet. Mara, Zorin, and the Alliance's top commanders stood on the command deck of the Resolute, preparing for the final confrontation. "Are we ready?" Mara asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Zorin nodded. "We are ready, but we must be careful. The destroyers have more than just firepower. They are capable of manipulating the minds of those they attack. We can't afford to lose our unity." The moment had come. The final battle would take place in the void of space, where the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The battle was a blur of explosions, flashing weapons, and the deafening roar of ships engaging in combat. The Galactic Alliance fought with everything they had, Kalari and human warriors fighting side by side, their ships firing in synchronized patterns, their strategies honed to perfection. But it wasn't just about power, it was about their unity. The ancient destroyers fought with unmatched ferocity, their weapons devastating entire sections of the Alliance fleet. But they were not prepared for the unexpected. The Alliance's diverse forces, bound by trust and shared purpose, were able to adapt on the fly. The Kalari warriors' immense strength, combined with human strategic genius, kept the enemy at bay. Then came the moment that would decide the galaxy's fate. Mara led the charge, her ship racing toward the destroyer's flagship, her heart pounding. "This is it," she said, her eyes fixed on the massive vessel. "Zorin, we go in together." Zorin, standing beside her, gave her a silent nod, his eyes reflecting both determination and the strength of everything they had fought for. With a deep breath, they launched their final assault. As they closed in, they activated a specially developed weapon, a combination of Kalari brute force and human technology, a powerful EMP designed to disable the destroyer's shields. But the weapon had a catch. It would only work if they reached the heart of the flagship and activated it manually. The task was perilous. The flagship's weapons were powerful enough to destroy their ships with a single shot. But Mara and Zorin were determined. As their ships approached the destroyer, they received a warning: "Do not engage. You will be annihilated." But it was too late. With a coordinated strike, the EMP detonated, sending a shockwave through the enemy flagship systems. The shields collapsed, and the flagship's power core faltered. The destroyer's massive fleet, deprived of leadership, was suddenly vulnerable. In the chaos that followed, the Alliance's forces rushed in, overwhelming the remaining enemies with sheer numbers and strategy. The ancient force was finally defeated, their weapon rendered useless, their fleet scattered and broken. Epilogue: A New Galactic Order. The aftermath of the battle marked the beginning of a new era for the galaxy. The Galactic Alliance stood victorious, not because of brute force, but because of the unity forged in the fires of war. Kalari and humans, alongside their allies, had proven that together, they could overcome any threat. With the ancient destroyers gone, the galaxy was at peace, at least for now. The threat of total annihilation had been averted. But Mara and Zorin both knew that the universe was vast, and there would always be new challenges ahead. Yet, they had learned a valuable lesson: no matter the odds, the future could be shaped by the strength of cooperation. As the first rays of peace began to shine across the galaxy, Mara Quinn stood alongside Zorin on the balcony of the newly established Galactic Citadel, overlooking a bright future. "We've won," Mara said, her voice full of quiet satisfaction. Zorin nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We didn't just win a battle, we won the future." And with that, the Galactic Alliance prepared for the challenges ahead, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it united, together, as one. Next, the emergence of the Celestial Empire. The victory over the ancient destroyers had brought an era of unprecedented peace to the galaxy. The Galactic Alliance, now a fully integrated federation of species, had rebuilt and thrived in the aftermath of the war. For years, Mara Quinn and Zoran led efforts to solidify relations between the species, ensuring that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. However, as with all periods of peace, new threats began to rise from the shadows. Unbeknownst to the Galactic Alliance, there were forces at work in the far reaches of the galaxy, ones that had been lying dormant since the destruction of the ancient destroyers. An entity, older than any known civilization, had begun to stir once more. The Celestial Empire, a myth that had existed only in the ancient texts of long-lost civilizations, had been preparing to rise again. The Celestial Empire was a network of powerful, godlike beings who had once ruled the galaxy eons ago. They were said to possess technology and abilities beyond the comprehension of even the most advanced species, their control over the stars and the fabric of reality itself bordering on omnipotence. It was rumored that they had disappeared from the known galaxy after a cataclysmic event, leaving behind only whispers and legends. But their absence was not a retreat, merely a slumber. And now, with the galaxy at peace, they were waking up. Mara stood in the council chamber of the Galactic Citadel, her mind heavy with a new burden. Intelligence reports from the farthest reaches of the galaxy spoke of strange, inexplicable phenomena, disappearances of entire star systems, star charts being altered without explanation, and the sudden appearance of vast, mysterious structures floating on the outskirts of known space. The reports suggested that something vast, and potentially dangerous, was rising. Zoran, Mara began, her voice steady but laced with concern. I fear we may be facing something beyond anything we've ever encountered. The Celestial Empire, they were once the rulers of the stars, but they disappeared. Why are they coming back now? Zoran's piercing yellow eyes met hers, his expression grim. We always knew that peace was a fleeting thing. Mara, this could be the greatest challenge we will ever face. Together, they analyzed the reports, discovering a disturbing pattern. The Celestial Empire had been systematically reclaiming the remnants of ancient structures scattered throughout the galaxy, places of unimaginable power that had been left untouched for millennia. These were not just relics, they were keys to awakening the full force of the Empire. The Galactic Alliance needed to act quickly, or the Empire's return would leave them with no time to prepare. Mara and Zoran traveled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, a region once believed to be the edge of known space. There, in a nebula of swirling gases and dead stars, they found an enormous structure, its surface dark and jagged, almost like the remains of a colossal ship. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The technology of the Celestial Empire was so advanced that even the Kalari and human minds, working together, struggled to understand it. As they ventured deeper into the structure, a terrifying realization began to take hold. The Empire's influence was already spreading. The strange phenomena were not just random. They were signs of something far greater, a signal, a calling for the galaxy to pay attention. We need to find the source, Mara said, her voice a whisper in the vastness of the structure. If we can stop it, we might be able to prevent the Empire from rising again. But as they pressed on, they were not alone. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a deep, reverberating voice. You dare to trespass in the domain of the Celestial Empire? You who have yet to understand the true nature of the stars? Before them, materialized a being, ethereal and ancient. Its form was both human and monstrous, shimmering like a star itself. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its voice carried the weight of eternity. I am Velgaroth, High Lord of the Celestial Empire, it declared, and you will kneel before us. Mara's hand instinctively reached for her weapon, but Zoran stopped her. We must tread carefully, he whispered. This is no ordinary foe. Velgaroth's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound that sent chills down their spines. You think your weapons, your unity, can stop us? You have no idea of the power we possess. The stars themselves bend to our will. Mara squared her shoulders. We won't bow, not to you, or anyone else. Velgaroth's gaze hardened. Then you will perish, as all others have before you. With a snap of his fingers, the structure seemed to come alive, the walls shifting, the air becoming dense with oppressive energy. Mara and Zoran found themselves surrounded by shifting tendrils of light and shadow. the reality of the world around them warping. The very fabric of space seemed to unravel. This is what happens when lesser beings challenge the might of the celestial empire, Velgaroth intoned. You are but ants before a storm. But Mara wasn't about to give up. She motioned for Zoran, signaling him to work on disabling the structure's core. They needed to stop the Empire's influence from spreading further, otherwise, the galaxy was doomed. Zoran, using his advanced knowledge of Kalari technology, began to hack into the systems, bypassing the complex defense mechanisms. The air around them hummed with energy as the structure fought back. But Zoran remained focused. Give me a moment, Zoran said, gritting his teeth. If we can disrupt their power source, we might have a chance to stop this. Mara didn't hesitate. She knew that if they were to succeed, it would require everything they had: bravery, cunning, and their unshakable bond. With a final cry of defiance, Mara launched herself at Velgaroth, her weapon raised. But just as she reached him, the entity's form flickered and vanished, leaving her to crash into the empty air. Velgaroth's voice boomed from every direction. You think you can stop us? The Empire is eternal, and you are but fleeting creatures. But as Velgaroth's words echoed, the structure suddenly shuddered, a wave of energy rushing out from the core. Zoran had succeeded. The energy source powering the Celestial Empire's resurgence was collapsing. Velgaroth's figure began to distort, his godlike form flickering as the energy field destabilized. The ancient entity screamed, but his cries were drowned out by the implosion of the structure itself. With the collapse of the core, the return of the Celestial Empire had been halted, for now. But Mara and Zoran knew this was not the end. The Empire's influence would continue to linger in the shadows, and they would need to prepare for the eventual return of the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Epilogue: The Legacy of Unity. The battle against the Celestial Empire had been one of the most difficult yet. Though they had averted the immediate threat, the galaxy now faced a future fraught with uncertainty. The alliance was stronger, but it was also vulnerable. The Empire's power was far from gone. It was merely waiting for the right moment to strike again. Mara, Zoran, and the leaders of the Galactic Alliance returned to the Citadel, their victory bittersweet. There was much work to be done to secure the galaxy's peace, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would stand united, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. For the first time in history, beings from every corner of the universe, Kalari, humans, and countless other species stood together, not just as allies, but as a family, prepared to face whatever the stars might throw their way. And with that unity, they would rise above the darkness and into a future where no force, no matter how ancient or powerful, could ever again threaten their existence.